Ash is all for saving baby Hitler.
And just, no, flip some terrible person I am. I mean, I guess I did go.
You just go back and kill Ava Braun because you don't like women. That's.
This was my biggest problem with this movie, was it centered around Supergirl. There was not enough Superman. Hello, fellow movie adventurers, and welcome to Film Curious. I'm Ashley, and I'm joined by Pete this episode to chat about DC's latest theatrical release and second movie since James Gunn was placed at the helm of DC Studios, and that movie is Supergirl. The story follows Kara Zor-El, alias Supergirl, as she joins forces with a young companion on an interstellar journey of vengeance and justice after an unexpected adversary strikes too close to home. We're going to start off with a non-spoiler review to express our overall impressions of the film, and then move into a spoiler discussion to hit on some more concrete points. I'm going to go into a bit of a monologue here, so bear with me. I'm going to probably end up run out of breath at certain points, but I feel like I need to preface it.
Pace yourself.
With like just an overall feeling of the film. So I want to start off by saying, go see Supergirl in theaters. If you haven't yet, it's fun. It has a great soundtrack and a solid story. It's as good as any other superhero movie to come out in the last 5 years or so that isn't one of the big names, and that is Batman, Superman, Spider-Man. So I want to give credit where credit is due, which is to the screenwriter, Ana Nogueira, for her adaptation of the comic based specifically on Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow, and the composer, Claudia Sarn, along with credit to strong performances by young leads Milly Alcock as Supergirl and Eve Ridley as Ruthie, as well as Jason Momoa in his supporting role and return to the DC film universe as Lobo.
I have a comment on that.
You write down your notes of what you disagree with here.
Yeah.
The villain, Krem, leader of the group of space pirates and mercenaries, the Brigands, might be lacking in a lot of things, but I don't believe it's from a lack of Matthias Schoenaerts' effort. Yeah. More the character is a bit stock itself. Mm-hmm. I think my biggest disappointment in the movie as a whole is there were a lot of choices that just didn't do as much as they should to have supported and elevated the story, and maybe not even choices, like a lack of choices. And I don't usually feel disappointed in a film unless it did have a lot of strong elements, and I did think it had the potential to be truly great. So my frustration with this film is really a compliment in a way, and I want to state before I make this next comment, I enjoy this director's other work. Craig Gillespie has directed quite a few films I love, which I'll mention. I, Tonya, and Lars and the Real Girl. Cruella's also not too shabby. So
I like Cruella.
Yeah. So when I go on to make the following critiques, I just want to say it's respect for this filmmaker's capabilities. He's talented, but I'm not sure he was the right fit for this movie. He might have been the right fit for this story and for this character, but maybe not this genre. I think the camera for me was too static for the energy of the soundtrack, too static for the action sequences, and sometimes unimaginative for an off-Earth planet-hopping romp. It relied a bit too heavily on certain iconic shots, but I felt failed to establish its own style and aesthetic. I'll give specific examples when we get into spoilers, but I would even describe it as the camera and the editing sometimes lacking a flow or rhythm with all the other elements. But I just monologued for a couple minutes, so I'm going to cut myself off here, open the floor to Pete. Pete, where are you at on this one, and what are your objections to what I just said?
This is the way I'm going to go about that. B is the grade I would give it. I think it's a B. My reasoning for a B are Milly Alcock's fantastic. She's the best part of the movie. She's the reason to go see the movie. I could not tell you. I guess this does go against. I could not tell you 3 notes of the score. It did not stand out to me at all. I was even reading through the credits, and I saw that they apparently at one point used the original Superman theme. Totally missed it. I don't know when that happened.
I caught it.
Was it for her or for Corenswet?
It was for her, and I think I actually questioned why for Supergirl. Or like I caught a few notes of it. I guess they could have definitely come up with something for her.
Yeah,
I think it just maybe the score didn't detract from the soundtrack, and I think it fit like pretty well into it. Maybe I would say so. They didn't feel like I feel like it was there for having such a heavy amount of songs. I think it felt just cohesive. So maybe that's why I'll give credit to that it didn't distract from it, and it fit in well the times that you could.
I just have no memory of it ever. So, and
there was like 3 or 4 notes. I did hear it. I'm trying to remember the scene.
And towards using like modern music, this is my one big concern for DC, is that everyone's going to try to make a James Gunn movie, but they can't. And it's going to feel like someone else is trying to make a James Gunn movie when it's not going to work that way. Just do your own thing. It'll be fine. I mean, when you look at Supergirl and the book that Tom King, he wasn't like, well, I'm going to do what other people did. Like, he threw all that shit out the window and did his own thing. So I would impress, like they give a shit what I think. I would say my biggest thing is don't try to be James Gunn version B, C, D, and E. Get away from that as soon as possible.
Definitely.
And if Gunn wants his movies to be like that, then maybe put them out every other year and do them all yourself, which is insane. And
so that it's like your style.
I wouldn't want that either.
No.
But, that would be the other way to go about it. I thought Momoa was fine. I don't know. He seems like he's just Jason Momoa in everything. So I actually would have liked, where I fell on Lobo was I either needed more of him or much less. I thought it hit this weird middle ground where he became like such a piece of the third act while she was, while other things were happening. And I was like, I don't know if we really needed like this to show up. Then again, in Superman, you have the same sort of thing happen with Mr. Terrific, but Mr. Terrific was really entertaining, where I thought Lobo was just fine.
Okay.
I will say that I liked the locations and that they looked like shit. And my reasoning for that is because that is what she's going through. She is not going to the prettiest places in the space, galaxy, blah, 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 because she wants to have fun. She is a legit alcoholic who is running away from all of her trauma and not willing to face it and not willing to give other places a try. She should be in dive bars and stuck on planets that look like garbage. I'm fine with that. I have no problem with the movie being murky. Some of my favorite. I don't know. It's like I don't think like No Country for Old Men didn't need to be more colorful. Like I'm not saying you said that, but like I've heard that complaint, and I'm like, that's a crazy thing to say. It depends on the story that you're telling, and does that actually fit? Or do you want to put that person in an environment that they absolutely shouldn't be in, and you have it play against each other? You can do it a number of different ways. But saying like it's a comic book film and it should be more bright and colorful is kind of insane. Because last I checked, Gotham is a nightmare. Hell's Kitchen is a nightmare overall. And it's fine for those characters to be in that because it matches their mental mood. Why is it a problem here? And we all know why it's a problem, because it's always the thing that comes down with these movies is that, people have a problem with a specific thing. and they just bleed into the other ones. I really was bummed out with the villain. It's not the actor's fault at all. They give him zero. I don't know a thing about this dude. And I want to use like this like as an example. I don't think we need to know everything about everyone, right? Very famously, you will hear people say, and they're right, you know, the greatest thing about Michael Myers is that he's just evil. That's it. Like, we don't need reasons and shit like that.
I mean, we don't need every villain to have a backstory.
No, but...
or to be a sympathetic character.
But with Michael Myers, we do get all that we need in that backstory because we literally see from a POV, an actual POV, not the type you see on Instagram that says POV and it's two people talking to each other, which is really weird. You see the POV of him killing his sister. And so you are very much like in this kid's mind, literally. And then everything else you learn is just how terrifying he is from Loomis. So that's all you need, right? But they don't give you nothing. And this felt like a nothing. I get what you're saying. I do think the camera is it just sort of lets the action happen around it. I'm okay with that overall. I think sometimes people get a little bit too much like, hey, look at what I'm doing with the camera. Look what I'm doing with the camera. Look at it. And that can be more off-putting than dull for me. But yeah, I thought it was overall, though, I did think it was B because I liked that it focused just on her. You know, mainly it was like trauma and other girls' trauma or other character. I don't really give a shit if it's a male or a female. I don't really know what the big problem is for so many people with that. But I loved that there was so many, it seemed like so many practical aliens and just a varied amount. Like there's like, you blink and there's 10 different costumes and designs like put in front of you. That's for me, that's my visual candy, is seeing all of that imagination there. But yeah, like you were saying, yeah, maybe it's not the director's like home seat, but the emotional moments that you experience with Kara, Han, you know, they probably work better because that very much leans into his strengths, right? So I think drama, I'll take that trade-off.
The heartfeltness of it.
Yeah, I think I'll take that trade-off.
I want a nice balance. Some of the, when we get into spoilers, I'll point out one really specific example that I actually think kind of has to do with your James Gunn. Not everything has to be James Gunn thing. But sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm agreeing with you on that. Yeah, I think that's, I really think that could be a problem. Like going forward for directors who are doing films who are not James Gunn. Is, hey, we have to have some 80s or 90s or 70s or 60s music be the soundtrack. And I think that's going to wear real thin real quick. You know, Guardians was like one movie every 3 years. I'm sorry.
No, you're right. Yeah, Guardians was enough spaced out. And it's James Gunn. It's the style of the films. I was watching something the other day that I was like finding like, why are we constantly putting songs, like random songs into things?
Yep.
So yes, I agree with you on that. I'm trying to remember the movie I was watching the other day where I was like, why is this random song in here? I
kind of feel like it's all over the place nowadays.
It is now. It's just very popular. It's even like what they're doing in trailers. They'll be like a random rendition of something in a trailer.
Did it start like way back when with Gears of War when they used, which was in Donnie Darko, so I guess technically it starts from that, but they used the Mad World, Gary Jules slowed down version of his classic 80s bopper. And ever since then, man, shit, people cannot get away from it. Just every trailer has like some 80s or 90s song slowed down to like half the tempo.
Yeah.
And sad sounding.
What was the recent one? What's the like dinosaur one that's coming out with Anne Hathaway and Ewan McGregor? It has a Billy Joel song in it. I think.
Was it a Billy Joel song?
Yeah.
Oh my God. What?
Maybe
Which one?
Isn't it?
What would it be? The Downeaster Alexa?
I
that
don't
would be.
care what you say, but it's
Oh,
in
my
my life, I think.
Sure.
Yeah, I think it's.
Right? Whatever. I don't
Yeah.
know what the fuck that has to do with
Yeah,
dinosaurs.
I think it's that one.
Weird.
Yeah, and it's
Alexa
slowed
would have been
down and it's like
rocking, though.
broken up.
They just
What?
put New York State of Mind. And the fucking film takes place in Atlanta or something. Anyways, yeah, those are my like immediate thoughts. I like Kara's journey. That's the thing that mattered the most to me was her journey, and it's about her being that bright spot in the movie, which she builds into and becomes. It does do a little bit of a cliche thing that a lot of superhero first movies do. It's not a spoiler. Don't get excited about seeing her in the costume for more than like 15 minutes.
Or she can't take up the mantle just yet.
Yeah. But I like the Duster look. She looks cool. The Duster and the Duster jacket and the sunglasses look cool as hell. If she would have had that on at the beginning of the movie, it wouldn't have made any goddamn sense. So again, like I see what people have told themselves that these movies always have to be. I don't care. I don't care about that. Because if that were true, then Watchmen wouldn't exist. The comic book, not the movie. Just silly stuff like that. I think is very internet brained a lot of times. You know, oh, this is the worst thing I've ever seen. Okay. It's like the third movie you've ever watched in your life. What do you see you watching?
I haven't. I did not look up the current review.
Oh no,
I'm
making a guess,
or
and I'm sure it's right.
I think I saw a bunch of already, YouTube reaction videos already that say some kind of thing about why do superhero movies keep doing this and blah blah blah. And I can't say that I felt that way about it. I literally wanted to get all of my kind of really bad feelings about the film or my frustration with the film out first, so that when we move into the spoilers, I will point out when I felt like I had a problem with something, but I really did enjoy this story. It was a very solid story. I don't have a problem with it. And
before we go into spoilers, it's David Krumholtz as Zor-El. Fantastic. I really dug him.
He did do a good job.
And I guess we'll get into the spoiler thing, because another thing, just see if you're going to go see it and you haven't seen it yet or whatever. What I really admire actually about this one, there ain't nothing about a post credit that tells you what the next movie's going to be, or the movie doesn't hijack its own movie to, tell you about the Green Lanterns. Let me take 5 minutes to tell you about this movie, the way that Marvel could never stop themselves from doing. Which was great. Very, very happy with that decision. Keep that going.
Yeah. Yeah, that was perfectly refreshing. If you got something to say, put it in the film.
Yeah. Or just say less.
Yeah, so
don't worry about I remember the Thor hot tub scene in Age of Ultron, which they cut most of the scene for the theatrical, so it made no fucking sense. You're like, what's going on? And then, it's just concentrate. ADD ass film. Get it together. But, all right. You want to talk about spoilers? I don't know.
Yeah, let's just get into it now. Yeah. So bringing up James Gunn, the style, I thought that the bar scene, which is technically is it the second bar scene after they take the interplanetary bus to the planet where the brigands are hanging out, or they're trying to find information on them. They're at that one bar.
Yes.
Brigands.
Brigadoon.
And that was where I was like, okay, so I understand that we're trying to do a James Gunn thing, right? Because the music starts playing, Ruthie's down on the ground, you're seeing the action, which I would argue you're not really seeing the action because the camera's not moving. I understand Ruthie's not moving, but with a Gunn signature scene like that, the camera is moving, or it's following a character. And it's got the background, the fight is happening in the background with the music going, and you're catching glimpses of it. So that was my thing where I was like, if you're going to do a gun scene, like, you got to get a little bit more playful with it. You have to know like how you're going to be moving the camera and stuff. I felt like this one, it was like, all right, static shot of Ruthie, and there's a, blur in the background. I don't know. It just, that specific one really was like, why don't you get more playful here?
Because I'll tell you exactly. I'll give you my guess. Because we're saying don't be like James Gunn. So then he doesn't. But then we're complaining that it's not like James Gunn.
So don't do it.
Why?
Do something else with that bar scene.
You can still have that scene.
Well,
because
if you can
if it
still have the
follows him
scene,
around,
but like,
if she's moving and the camera's following around, it's the credits to Guardians of the Galaxy 2 when Baby Groot is running around. So like, I would not want that there. But I didn't think we were going to learn anything about her fighting style. Okay, so what would you do then?
Maybe I would put it on Ruthie for a hot minute, and then I would then proceed to film it how I would like a action fight sequence. You don't have to copy James Gunn's camera movements in this kind of scene, but like get a little creative with your shots, and show us, her fighting. I feel like we don't throughout the film, we don't get a lot of her fight choreography, or we're not. I felt I wasn't able to see a good amount of it. I don't know, the action, just the pacing and the cuts, and even the composition of some of the shots.
Yeah, it's not the strong point. It's not a strong point of the movie. I liked that decision, though. I thought it was just at least a different way. Like, I don't know. I guess I don't need to see them doing the same fight that she's essentially going to do at the end of the film, which is just beating up a bunch of guys, a bunch of characters. True. It would just be like the same thing in different clothes, literally.
Yeah.
So
that does bring me to one other point, but yeah, you can finish.
No, go ahead.
Finish your thought.
No, that was my thought.
Well, my one other point is I felt that we maybe could have cut one of the fights or trimmed one of the fights down or something and provided a little bit more of a bonding experience between Kara and Ruthie. Maybe taken a little bit more time, like in between getting off the planetary bus to the alien convenience store to then get to that bar. I think there was a little bit of a bonding type thing missing for me. I know that like they had it when Kara is telling her backstory, and then we get the flashback.
I have a patch for you then. Don't make the planet with the green sun. Make it with a red sun at the end. And she and Ruthie have to kind of hand-to-hand fight some people without powers. And then they start getting overdone, and then the sun changes and you get your thing. But then she doesn't really get to like switch into the costume because it wouldn't make any sense. What's she going to do? Leave and then come back? But that was the only part that I would have liked to have had like a little bit of a different approach is... she gets sidelined for a while with that. And and it sets up the whole bit in the prison cell with Lobo, which actually I thought was really good. But I just sort of felt like she's missing in a lot of the third act, it feels. So I would have liked a little more of her. But without that, we don't get the good stuff of learning about her background and her story and what happened on Krypton, as Brando would say. And we also don't get the prison scene, which is the only time when like Ruthie 100% like take cares of her own shit, for the most part, which I thought was really good to see. So it's like a give and take on that. I'm not too sure where I would lay in it. But yeah, I just thought she was maybe a little bit too missing. I do wonder though, because as much as they didn't like point at like a picture of Brainiac and be like, Brainiac's coming. They kind of do. Because that little Kryptonian city is floating around in space. I have a theory. They don't show her parents dying. They don't show that piece of Krypton like completely dying off. And part of me is thinking about the bottled city of Kandor. Kandor, right? Yeah, Kandor. And that's a remaining fragment of Krypton that Brainiac shrinks and keeps in a little bottle. And I have a feeling that might come into play. I think that her parents might still be around and they're prisoners of Brainiac. And so that gives her a very big reason to be involved in the next film, or at least maybe towards the end of it, if when that's discovered. Because I know that Supes and Lex it seem like right now the front facing characters in the film, rightfully so. That's another thing that DC is going to have a problem with, actually. The James Gunn thing of everyone trying to be James Gunn, and the fact that no one else is going to be Holt's Lex, that's going to be a real problem. Like, Marvel kind of had this problem until Thanos. Thanos was good enough that we were able to look past it, but in comparison to Loki, who gave a shit about like any of those other villains? That's going to be a hill to climb because he was that entertaining and that good of a villain. DC is going to have a problem with that. Their best villains gallery, comes from Batman. And, that's not people that like can pose a real threat to Superman. If Superman was in Batman comics, every issue would be like 3 pages long. That'd be the end of it. So yeah, sorry, the sidetracked on that one, but yeah, no. I would have liked to have seen a little bit different, just towards how long she was out of action in the third frame of the movie.
That's fair. I thought that the flashbacks though were the strong point.
They were so good, yeah,
they were really good, and even like they were a little bit more aesthetically pleasing, which I get because they're on Krypton and it's nice until it pulls away and everybody's dying on it. But I thought that was even a really good way of we really understand like she went through it. Like she watched everyone around her die and was forced to be sent off world and like not given the mercy of just dying with the rest of her people. Mm-hmm. And even the flashback, I love when she gets to Metropolis. I love David Corenswet's Superman when he does show up. He's so good. He's such a great Superman.
Great. Also, important little silly thing, Superman pre-S-curl. He has not grown it out in the earlier scenes. And then, you see it when they have the scene at the end of the film where it's, the Supes that we now know now. And he's got that little curl is back, but he didn't grow out his hair yet as much in the previous scene.
Yeah, but where she gets to the Metropolis, well, she lands down in Kansas, it looks like to me. Isn't that a part of Kara's backstory? Doesn't she like land in a cornfield, like basically where Superman lands? Or am I making this up about?
I don't know.
What I remember,
I don't know what her like one of her thing is.
Her original thing.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I feel like that character's been redone a couple of times too.
Yeah, I might have seen one of the like animated films I'm pulling from, but she gets to Metropolis, everything's way too loud for her, heightened senses now, her ears. Yeah. And I really appreciated the struggle that she has being on Earth. And I think then it was like the explanation of always listening to music, the headphones to tune out the noise of Metropolis and Earth. And so I was I love that flashback. That was phenomenal.
Which, give some credit where it is. They did touch on that and play with that idea in the Zack Snyder Man of Steel, because that was like when Zod first steps out of the ship and takes off his helmet, where Clark is like, But I liked how, in this, when he's like, you're probably just about to get your powers now, and that's when all of it kind of comes in. They even actually played with that. My goodness, why do I remember this of all things? In the Ben Affleck Daredevil. That's why he had the thing that people sleep in with the water that cuts out all the sound, isolation chamber, whatever it may be specifically called. He's got one of those. So when he wants to go to sleep at night, the entire sound of the city is not keeping him up, which is, I always thought was one of the rare, really good choices in that film. outside of every single line that Colin Farrell says, that movie is very forgettable.
I'm gonna say I couldn't remember jack shit about that movie.
Colin
so like
Farrell,
you were saying, talking about, I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I did see it. I'm pretty sure I saw that movie. I don't remember anything.
I think Joey Pants is in it too, if I remember correctly. He's like an investigator or something. So Michael Clark Duncan was Kingpin. There's actually a pretty good fight scene between him and Kingpin at the end. Weird that I'm remembering this just suddenly.
Have to do a rewatch, maybe.
I don't know if you need to do that, but I'm just saying, had a couple of things.
A couple of good things.
Yeah, a couple of notes.
I do want to say that I did really enjoy Lobo, and maybe he was just Jason Momoa, but I was like, I don't know why necessarily I was so like, why are we bringing people who played other people in the previous set of DC movies into new DC movies? It's not like we get confused. Like, it shouldn't really matter to me, but I'm always kind of like, I don't know, let's just pull some fresh people. Let's see who can be a fresh face. And
under that ruling, though, Chris Evans is never Captain America.
That's true. Yeah,
so,
I'm wrong. It's a wrong take.
With that said, that's a wrong take. Because then you don't get Evans as Cap, and that would have been unfortunate for all of us.
That's true.
So,
but I did like him as Lobo, so I was like, oh, this is great. Yeah. I enjoyed it. He was fun. I thought it was clever and funny, and they had a good little rapport going, him and Milly Alcock, and so I was good with that. No, the villain is not enough. Like you were saying, I think you kind of said it very well. I personally don't care though, because this was one that it didn't really bother me, just because I'm like, this is about Kara, this is about Ruthie, and also we kind of are maybe the bigger problem though, right? Might be the villains are Mad Max, like
the brigands. They call them brigands.
Yeah, they've got child brides, they got motorcycles, got some weird look about them. They all seem kind of crazed. And then we fight in the sand in our final battle.
I mean, you can argue that like Mad Max is just Vikings without boats, but yes, it's sort of a generic. It is kind of like generic enemy A, B, C, and D, right?
Yeah.
This could have been this could have been like a group of villains from a punch 'em up, like at an arcade. It could have been Streets of Rage 5. Are we up to 5? Whichever Streets of Rage would be the newest one. I think there's a Streets of Rage 4. You could just throw them into a blender and you wouldn't even know. The thing that got me on in the beginning, I was like, oh, this guy's pretty good because he was fucking brutal. He was just like unflinchingly like just mocks. It is funny though how all of this kicks off because the brother tries to like scare his sister. That was pretty funny. I don't think it was supposed to be funny, but when it happened, I was like,
funny.
It's kind of funny. Like this guy just got his whole family killed. Well, except for her.
But I was like, why didn't the parents, like, they know these people are coming. The parents couldn't give the kids a heads up to be like, hey, stay in your room. There's some evil guys coming.
I mean, in that case, then, what would have happened? Because the script would have taken it there. Then one of the kids would have got overly curious and fell into the hallway or some dumb shit, right?
Yeah, I mean, Ruthie was already hanging herself.
The flip of that, I guess, like a good version of that is in No Time to Die with Bond, where you learn about Leia Sedu's, like when her mother was killed by Freddie Mercury. I'm going to kill you now, Freddie Mercury. God, I don't like him. Like that was a pretty good one where she's like, she sees what's happening, but she does get a gun though, and then try to shoot the guy and does shoot him, I think, actually, a couple of times that he lives. But yeah, that was, kids suck. I mean, this stupid kid scared her sister and got an axe in the back for it. I mean, that's a lesson.
I don't know what lesson it is.
Don't do that. Jump scares are dumb. That's the lesson. And you know what? Now this movie is even better, actually. There we go. Now it's going to a B+.
You know what jump scare was absolutely not dumb? When we were playing Cabin Factory.
It's a good jump scare.
You click, I'm going to ruin it, I guess, for somebody who hasn't watched Cabin or hasn't played Cabin Factory, is that if you click on the jump scare button, it'll immediately give you a jump scare.
Yeah, it's like a legitimate jump scare just at the menu of this video game. Yeah. I had no idea. Wait, there was a moment in Supergirl. Oh, I think it was just because it was loud. That Melissa.
No, there was. Yeah, there was a whole. Oh, I think it was Supergirl I watched when she gets. Yeah. Ruthie goes down to the shore sand area when she sees one of the brigands.
Oh yes,
and he pops out behind her because she's watching the other brigand, and then that was a jump scare. The music got really. It was actually a little too. It was a little too much for this movie, but
she mentioned that. I remember Melissa mentioned she was like, "That's really loud," and I was like, "I'm deaf. I don't know anything anymore." So I was like, "I'm fine," but not because I'm not a judge. I have no idea. I couldn't tell you what's loud and not anymore. All I know is that I have trouble hearing dialogue occasionally, but not in this one. Had no issues with that. I'm looking forward to seeing this again. I might want to, well, I guess no. Didn't that stupid Minions thing come out soon? So I'm assuming I can't find that on an IMAX screen anymore because, children's movies need to take up IMAX screens.
It's very important you see little yellow guys.
Yeah. Has nothing to do with just charging more per ticket. It's about the art. But I'd like to maybe check it out again, but so much stuff is out right now. And I'm playing catch up as is.
Yeah.
Because I also saw Jackass recently. I'm going to go see Death of Robin Hood tomorrow night. I know you're going later tonight, right?
Yeah.
I'm very excited to go see that.
Yeah.
I also then watched the first two Jackass movies once I saw the newer one. It's just a very busy time to go see anything more than once. And I also think that that's not helping this movie at the box office because essentially you fucked with Toy Story. I don't think that's a good idea. Mm-hmm. I don't care how many there are. I don't care what number that franchise is up to. Don't run into a brick wall of Toy Story. It's just not a bad idea. Yeah. Because families are going to go to that. And that is such a large part of the audience that could be going to see this. But they're going to go see Toy Story.
Because, this is definitely geared. Like, if you're a teenage girl, I think you're going to love this movie.
Yeah.
So,
but the good news is I don't really think the money matters right now. They're going to go on to Superman, and as long as that performs the way that it is, that'll be that. Is there a Lobo movie? Like, is that a thing that anyone gives a shit about?
I hope not.
The Green Lanterns.
Series? Wait, did they say something about a Lobo series?
Is it a Lobo series? Let me see. Lobo series.
I think I read something about Lobo series, or it could just be a rumor.
All right. Funny enough, when you do this, it's going to bring up some TV series from the 2000s. Which is not what I'm looking for.
It already happened.
It already happened 26 years ago. I don't know. I don't see anything yet that here.
Or saw a rumor.
Yeah, rumor, of course, there'll be something. But, because our next thing, I guess, is Green Lanterns, right? From DC. And then we got Superman next summer.
The show, right? It's a limited series.
Yep, limited series. And I want to see, the James Gunn shadow is going to be the question that I kind of walk into with a lot of these movies. I'll be honest, I wouldn't mind seeing Gunn change up his own thing. Sorry, I have the hiccups. His own thing, too, because there's something about, the modern soundtrack and plugging these songs in. This will be, the fifth movie in a row, right? Where that's kind of the bread and butter of what he does. Yeah. He did it in Peacemaker. He did it too. I don't know, though. People don't seem to be tiring of it at all. I just wanted to continue being fun. But actually on that thing of fun, that's the other, I've heard all these movies dour because blah, blah, blah. I don't think every superhero film has to be Quip fucking City. Like, I don't want that. I don't want goddamn Ant-Man as the DNA for all of my films going forward. Shit, I can barely get through the Spider-Man movies right now with MCU. I'm hanging on by my fingernails through those movies.
He's too young. They just write him so young.
Did you know he's a kid? Yeah, no, they make him
well, apparently that. He's in college now, and he's still, the latest trailer has me feeling like he is still a kid. But.
Yeah, they don't let him really mature. I feel like every movie that he was in for a long time was, what? This guy, he's like young. Do you get it? It's fucking crazy. He's young. He doesn't know Alien.
That one movie?
Oh,
I can't remember the name of this old movie.
Like, oh man, fuck off. All that stuff was so exhausting. So no, I don't need that in all. Again, I just feel like, oh, it's a comic book film, therefore it must be quippy. No, it does not need to be that way. It can be, and that's fine.
Yeah, depending on the character, it
depends on a lot of shit. And I'll always go to this too, because this is another, like, there's a real double standard. This isn't news to anybody. Like, I remember when She-Hulk twerked, and I heard people like, oh, this is embarrassing for the MCU. Daredevil was taking it up the ass in like the opening 20 minutes, right? That was okay. Let's flip that. What if She-Hulk was pegging somebody and Deadpool? I'm sorry, and Deadpool was.
I was going to say Daredevil, even Deadpool. Yeah.
And what if Deadpool was twerking? Would that have been then okay?
Well, he did a whole dance,
he did an entire fucking dance number,
grabbing his crotch and everything.
All these things are just totally so fucking. Fine. There's like all these complaints. You're so fucking corny. You're all so fucking boring. Also, like that's the biggest sin of it all. You're so boring, where your head is up your ass, which I guess would be like the funniest thing ever if it was in a Deadpool movie. But yeah, it's such if people react to these movies and everything with female characters so strangely, and even to comic book films overall, people react super weird nowadays.
You can't throw any fan bases into things. It's always
fandoms are always dumb fans. That's all it is. Fandom is dumb fans, and you don't have to be part of that shit. You can just enjoy it and not, try to make a quippy, I'm going to watch this simply to fuel up the review that I'm going to put on Letterboxd. My sarcastic, one-line review, because I really hope people click like. It's so weird. It's so weird.
I guess this kind of goes with the quips and everything has to be super witty.
These quips.
I did like the final scene interaction that Kara has when trying to convince Ruthie, you don't need to kill him. Don't kill Krim. It's really good. And that scene was, I thought, really well done, because that could have easily, a second later, could have been broken with the comic relief, like some line that had to be funny. And I felt like that whole scene, like they're like, nope, this is straight drama right now. Like we're gonna do heartfelt, we're gonna do emotional. Kara gives her that nice long hug, and I love that Supergirl then goes and kills him.
Let me ask you something then. You know of The Last of Us, right?
Yes, I am well aware of The Last of Us. Big fan.
So do you agree with Joel?
I mean, do you want to know what I chose in the game, or?
Well, you didn't have a choice in the game. You had to pull the trigger in the game. You didn't have to kill the nurses.
No, you did not kill everyone in the room.
But I killed everyone in the room.
I killed everyone in the room.
Yeah, I killed everyone in the room. But yeah, it did make me think of that, where I was like, it won't bring up that discussion as much, because Last of Us was also seen by way too many people, and you get way too many opinions on it. But it was like the same thing. you know? And it's the argument that like Superman and Batman have. I would be interested to see if this ever comes up between her and Clark.
Yeah, well, because the differentiators, because I felt
Mhm.
like this movie was like, here's the difference between me and Superman.
Yeah.
So
I would love for that conversation to happen and for us to be able to obviously, observe it, because it's the difference between the two of them.
yeah. Here's why I want to say, though, here's why I do love the choice. And maybe this is me just like projecting my own thing on it of whatever I want it to be, that scene. But I felt like it was Kara protecting Ruthie's childhood and like innocence and like her mental health until she was, and whereas Kara's like, this is my 23rd birthday. I lost my entire planet, my people. I don't have to worry about, my childhood anymore, or my mental thing, my mental state is not great anyway. My values are not there like they used to be or whatever. And I think that it was like a really kind thing to do for Ruthie, but then also like the ruthlessness of like adulthood. Or at least that's like how I was taking it.
Krim is very, very straightforward. He's like,
he's
going to kill her another time.
He's trafficking.
He was like, I'm going to just go and kill her another time. I'm going to do it as much time as it needs. And so, like, Batman
don't put him.
That's the Batman Joker thing, right?
It's like, throw him in Arkham and...
it's like, I'll just wait till he kills another 500 people, because I made up
like
this...
what did I say with Batman says it's like, would you just add another killer to the list if I were to kill him? I'm like, no, if you did math, like it's subtracting.
Like him killing the Joker doesn't mean that he's just going to wind up killing everyone.
Just
like
murder all of them. You know what? Maybe you do need to murder all of Arkham. I don't know.
Also, I thought of something that kind of was annoying me. I don't know why this came up in my brain. You know how like a lot of TV shows have always done, like if they're time traveling in sci-fi, there's been a bunch that's done this to let's kill Hitler. But they always like try to kill Hitler at like the height of World War II. Just shoot this kid in his fucking art class in college.
You can't kill the young one.
Yeah, like what are you talking about?
It's like, well, that's the argument of would you kill Hitler if he was a baby? Or as a baby? Yes.
Of course I would. I wouldn't hesitate. I'd want some proof. I want to make sure I got the right baby. He's got the little mustache and shit. I got to make sure of these things. But like, yes, of course I would.
You don't want to be like Voldemort and just kill the wrong baby.
Remember that? It was that movie. It was that movie. Great start. It was with it was with Frank Langella, and he shows up at somebody's house, and he's like, "I have a button for you." And there's just like this button on a table. It's like a big red button, like the Ren and Stimpy shiny red button.
I think I've seen this movie.
And he says, like, if you press this button, somebody that you don't know will die, but you will get like your greatest wish. And someone very quickly, when that came out, made a parody. And before the man even finishes his sentence, he just presses the button and then like presses it again and again. It's like, okay, yeah, sure. I will Greek Thermopylae throw that baby off a cliff. If you hand me baby Hitler. That'll be the end of that. Anyways. In other words, friends, bring me your baby Hitlers.
No problem. No problems with it.
And then explain to me, though, how you have time travel, but we'll deal with that later.
So, I don't know.
What would you do? No, wait, Ash, we have like a little bit of time left.
Okay.
What's the one thing you would do if you had time travel? You can only do one thing.
Oh, man, I have a tough time with that question just because I'm a very ever forward moving person. Like, I don't even like nostalgia too much.
You're killing me right now. Just answer the fucking question.
What'd I do if I could time travel?
Just one thing.
Figure out find something with the stock market that I knew what stocks were going to blow up because money makes money. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know.
But then what happens? Do you tell yourself, a younger you?
Yeah, well, that's the problem with all these things, right?
Yeah.
It's like you got to leave a trail that's going to make sense when you get older. And
because I'm like, I'll go back and I'll buy 10 copies of Superman #1. Okay, where am I putting this in between that time
How do you make
and
sure
now?
you get it? Yeah.
Yeah, like
It's
what bank is never changed and I can throw it in a safe deposit box? Like, I got you research on this shit.
Yeah,
but then who's paying the fees for this box?
Really thoroughly planned out.
Yeah.
It's like what is the comics? Have you read the comics Paper Girls?
No.
Oh, well they bump in girls.
Don't tell me. They're really super strong and they
but
can't
they
lose
bump
fights.
into like their future selves. Like there's
I would have been so disappointed. Brian K. Vaughan. Oh, wow.
Yeah. But yeah, it's like, how do you convince yourself that you're you? And it's like, you got to keep telling them things only you would know.
I'd be fucking dead then. I can't remember anything.
It's too tough. The time travel thing is too tough. It's why, like, you shouldn't fuck with things in the past. It changes things in the future. How many
so
movies
you
and
would
stories
save
are there
baby Hitler?
that?
Really? Quite a stance, Ash. Ash is all for saving baby Hitler.
And just, no, flip some terrible person I am. I mean, I guess I did go.
You just go back and kill Ava Braun because you don't like women. That's.
This was my biggest problem with this movie. Was it centered around Supergirl? There was not enough Superman.
I didn't want to fuck Krypto. What another weird thing. Like, Krypto isn't swollen built. Like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Have you ever weird. Like, you should really wow.
Also, they gotta stop fucking with the dogs. Stop taking the dogs. The villains they all deserve to die. They keep taking Krypto.
With John Wick in this world, John Wick laid down the law and everyone was like, shit, we can do that? Like, yeah, if you do that, it's the easiest thing to get an audience on your side. They were like, okay.
I mean, I did love the freak out in Superman when I think he like storms into Lex's office.
Dog, Luthor?
Where's the dog?
And the little drinking. I forget what he says under his breath. It's something like, I hope he doesn't die or something like that. Like, I forget what he says. But it's really, really good.
But no, I'm really excited for what DC has to offer under Gunn's rule. I'm hoping that more filmmakers feel more confident when they step into direct, that they're going to just go for their own style, their own feel, and not feel the need to be Gunn. But I did like this movie. I really did enjoy it, and it was one of the more. We got it wasn't like Captain Marvel where it's like we don't know this character even by the end of her origin story. Like Captain Marvel had forgotten her memory and we just went a whole movie with a woman who didn't know who she was.
Yeah, they did not let her have much of a personality in those films.
No.
It was what a waste of a phenomenal actress. Really waste. That was a big waste.
Yeah.
Again, though, I'll always defend what happened with that. In that they lost their king piece. If you watch the end of Endgame, it's not exactly like subtle that it was going to be Black Panther and Captain Marvel at the head of the table. They were going to be our new Cap and Tony, and once you lost Panther, I just think it threw everything out the window.
Yeah, that was way before the whole Kang and Jonathan.
It was before. Yeah, it was Endgame, where that was like.
Again,
the villain. It's hard. It's hard to do the villain, but at least they had what you would assume would have been, the heart of the films going forward. And obviously, and Mackie is Cap too. Throw him into the mix. You have the three leads really, and it just without Boseman, I think that just sunk that ship. So
they did that character dirty. They did Captain Marvel dirty. They did Brie Larson dirty. But which I would say they did not. I thought they did a great job with Supergirl.
Yeah,
I
no,
hope she shows up. I hope the plan is that
she's absolutely showing up. In,
she's showing up and she's a part of this. Because even her, David Corenswet, and her go well together too.
Hold on 1 second. Let me take a look at something super quick. Google is getting worse and worse. Has anyone noticed that recently?
Yeah, it's trash now.
Thor. How much did the first Thor movie make? Because I seem to remember that, like, even the first Captain America movie, I don't remember that being like a big box office movie. Like, it was Iron Man that really did it. Thor at the time made $449 million. It made only $181 in the States. The first Thor movie. And then let's look at Captain America. What's the first one? The First Avenger.
The First Avenger. Yeah.
That made $370 million. 176 of that was in the States and Canada, which that seems weird. Why would it break it down? I guess it's North America. Yeah, they're saying North America. Neither one of those are like banger numbers.
Yeah.
You know, neither one of those are banger numbers. Especially when you think about when it went into.
Yeah.
So
this is a stupid expectation after, Endgame, that everything needs to make $1 billion. Like, it totally skewed what is a successful movie. And it's just a ridiculous scale to compare it to. I mean, the only, superhero who has that much like money power behind it is Spider-Man. Like,
and Batman.
So
I'd argue Batman has that too.
Batman.
And I mean, like,
did Superman do?
I mean, the
really
Nolan trilogy made bank.
Well, yeah. I was thinking of the new one, the Matt Reeves one.
No, I want to say that was like probably in the 500 to 600 range. I mean, even Superman, actually worldwide, 618. It's not like $1 billion or anything like that. But that was incredibly well received. Yeah. Batman, actually, the Batman made 772. Okay. It made more than Superman. You wouldn't think that because of the way that people talk about it. But the Batman was a big ass hit, but it wasn't $1 billion.
Yeah.
It's a crazy thing to measure it against. Also, don't worry, folks. You're not going to see any of that money. Don't worry about the box office. Who gives a shit?
It doesn't signal whether it was a good movie. Is it fun?
Yeah.
Is it,
You didn't pay for it. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Who gives a shit?
I mean, the only time to worry about it is if you really enjoyed it and it didn't perform how they wanted it to perform. And so now you're not going to get more of it. Yeah. That's the only thing that...
Remember The Flash? My God.
The TV show?
Keaton? No, like with Michael Keaton.
Oh, shoot. Yeah.
Remember that movie?
With Ezra Miller, was he supposed to be?
The CG babies being put into microwaves. The movie was great.
I'll be honest, I did not watch The Flash.
Oh, God, I did. It was terrible. It was really terrible. And then they like showed like dead actors and shit for their final sequence, and just get the fuck away from me. Get it out of here. That was a mess.
That whole era I'm very glad it's gone. I'm so glad it's gone.
Yeah.
Maybe that's even why I was like, with Momoa coming back, I was like, no, nothing. Just keep it away. Nothing more from that time period. Yeah. I remember seeing Batman vs. Superman in theaters and being like, get me the fuck out of here. Is this movie over yet?
Yeah. Movie's bad.
But I'm glad we're on to a new era. I'm very much enjoying it so far. But anyway, all right, folks. Well, thanks for watching. Thanks or listening, whichever you're doing. If you're liking these conversations, go ahead and follow us, subscribe. And we're not always going to be talking about superhero stuff or the latest and greatest. So if you need a mix of things to hear about, you've come to the right place, because I don't stick to one niche or genre when it comes to film. So I'm not sure what just happened with
clean the camera.
Oh, okay. All right, thanks for listening, and we'll see you real soon. Bye.